Daniel Moore didn't believe in accidents. After his wife died 3 years earlier, life had narrowed into strict lanes: work, his 8-year-old daughter Sophie, and silence. Silence at the dinner table. Silence in the evenings. Silence that felt safer than hope. So when Daniel stepped into the wrong hospital room one Tuesday afternoon, holding a bundle of bright yellow sunflowers meant for a coworker's wife, he never imagined that single mistake would quietly undo everything he thought he understood about grief. The room was cold and dim. Machines hummed softly. A woman lay alone against white sheets, her skin pale, her breathing shallow. No visitors, no cards. No signs that anyone had been there at all. Daniel froze. This wasn't the right room. He should have apologized and left. But something about the emptiness stopped him. The way the flowers in his hand suddenly felt too alive for a room so still. Without thinking, he set the sunflowers on the small table beside her bed and walked out. He told himself it meant nothing. 3 days later, he found himself standing outside the same door. The flowers were still there, wilting now. The woman was awake, staring at the ceiling like she was counting cracks that weren't there. Daniel felt a tightening in his chest, the same ache he'd felt the night his wife died, sitting alone in his kitchen, wishing someone had left him flowers instead of sympathy and then disappearing. He asked the nurse about her, Claire Bennett. Stage 3 lymphoma, 2 weeks admitted, no visitors. Daniel didn't go in. Instead he started leaving things: a paperback novel, a small potted plant, a soft blanket, a card with nothing written inside. He never stayed. He never waited for thanks. He just wanted her to know she wasn't invisible. And strangely, every time he left the hospital, the hollow space inside him felt a little less sharp. 2 weeks later, a nurse stopped him in the hallway. "She's asking about you," she said gently. "She wants to know who's been leaving the gifts." Panic rushed through him. This hadn't been part of the plan. But when the nurse insisted he deliver the next item himself, a simple journal, Daniel found himself standing at Claire's door. When he stepped inside, she smiled. It was small and careful, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. "You're real," she said softly. Daniel laughed nervously and told her the truth. He'd walked into the wrong room. She'd been alone. And no one should be that alone. That was the beginning. He started visiting regularly. At first, they talked about nothing important: books, weather, the bad hospital coffee. Slowly, heavier truths slipped through. Claire had lost her parents years earlier. Friends drifted away with time. When she got sick, there was no one left to call. Daniel told her about his wife. About learning to pack school lunches while his hands still shook. About how grief had shrunk his world to the size of survival. When Claire asked why he kept coming back, Daniel didn't have a perfect answer. He just knew that sitting in that room made breathing easier again. One afternoon, he brought Sophie. Her laughter filled the room, bright and fearless. Claire lit up instantly, listening as Sophie explained her drawings in great detail. Watching them together, Daniel felt a terrifying realization settle in his chest. This wasn't just kindness anymore. This felt like family. Then Claire was discharged. Remission. Hope. Daniel told himself he should be relieved, but fear crept in. What if this was where it ended? What if the hospital had been the only thing holding them together? It wasn't. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into quiet evenings where Sophie colored at the table while Claire cooked. Daniel fought fear every step of the way, the fear of loving again, of losing again. Claire understood that fear better than anyone. When a follow-up scan sent her back to the hospital months later, Daniel didn't hesitate. He stayed. He held her hand. And when the doctor finally said the scans were clear, Daniel felt something shift inside him, something permanent. "I'm scared," Claire admitted one night. "So am I," Daniel said. "But I'm not leaving." Months later, they stood in Daniel's backyard, exchanging vows in a small, imperfect ceremony. Sophie walked down the aisle holding sunflowers, the same kind Daniel had once placed in the wrong hospital room, the mistake that had led him home. Daniel didn't know what the future would bring. None of them did. But he knew this love wasn't about perfect timing or guarantees. It was about choosing to stay. About walking through the wrong door and discovering it was exactly where you were meant to be.